Jake here for American Trucks, and today I'm taking a look at this front tie rod set fitting 2009 to 2017 F-150s. If you've got some play in the front end of your F-150, it's often the tie rods or just the ball joints. Thankfully, this is a complete kit that's going to replace both of those things and get the steering in your truck feeling back to factory fresh, so it'll have you driving down the road safely and smoothly in no time. Now, modifications are fun, that's why we're here, but maintenance is also key to making sure your truck stays enjoyable and safe for the long run. And trucks, especially ones that are used a little bit more heavily, tend to chew through suspension components, tie rods specifically. And if you've experienced death wobble or just general looseness in the steering, these guys are probably to blame. So what we have here is a kit that's going to get that problem corrected and have your truck driving properly again. So this is going to include both the inner and outer tie rods, complete with new ball joints. So the function of these parts is to transfer the steering input from the steering rack to the knuckles and thus to your wheels. So when you turn the wheel, these are what actuate the steering. So if there's even a little bit of play in either of these components on either side of the truck, you're gonna lose some feel and some confidence in your steering. And like I mentioned, these also include brand new ball joints on the ends here, so no need to worry about pressing in new ones or popping your old ones out. That hard part is already done for you. Now these come lubricated and they're sealed with heavy duty grease boots as well. You've even got a brand new castle nut on top. So they're a bolt-on, ready to go solution. Both the inner and outer tie rods in this kit are made from high quality forged steel with those premium ball joints we were talking about earlier. So these are very similar to what your truck would have had on it from the factory. They make for a pretty sturdy replacement, but one that's still rather economical. Speaking of which, pricing is going to come in at about $150, making this a rather affordable kit, and it will provide you with a solid refresh of your F-150 steering and make it feel like it's factory fresh again. Installation gets a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and you should expect this job to take you about 2 hours to complete. Now this is going to require a bit of disassembly, and you're going to have to separate the old ball joints from the knuckles, so prepare for that to take some time and some patience to get it done. Also, make sure you get a proper alignment once you've got these installed too, because you're going to need it to get everything back to factory specs and have your truck driving the way that it should. With that though, let's hand it over to one of our AT customers who's going to show you the installation process.
All right, today we're doing inner and outer tie rod on a Ford F-150 2012 model. All right, first things first, you want to jack up your vehicle. So I'm doing both sides. I'm gonna jack up from the cross member in the middle of the truck, so we can properly secure both sides of the vehicle with jack stands. You notice a little arrow right here, at least on the F-150s. That shows your jack point. It's also a good, safe place to be able to secure your jack stands to carry the load of the vehicle while you're working under it. You want to make sure that you get both sides secure, so we're doing both sides of the vehicle at the same time. And you want to slowly lower the truck on the jack stand to relieve the pressure from your jack. Make sure the jack stands are tight and you're good to start working. Another safety precaution anytime you're working on your vehicle is make sure you chalk your tires. Rear if your front's up, front if your rear's up. Most of the time you're going to take your wheels off, you want to break your lug nuts with on the ground, but the impact driver I have, it's able to break them up when there's no tire pressure on the tires. Once you got all the lug nuts removed, remove your tire. Another thing you can do is use a separate jack up your lower control arm to take pressure off the outer tie rod in to help keep from being in a bind when you go take it out. And be sure to use some type of penetrating oil to soak the parts to help break up all the corrosion and unseize the nuts and bolts, make them a little easier to get off. Now the other thing you do is you spray it down, take your wire brush, clean off the threads. Try to make it a little easier to get them off. All right, we're having a little bit of problem with the jam nut right here, not wanting to break free. So we're gonna use a little bit of heat, try to heat it up. Before I do that, I'm gonna wrap some foil around the boot components. Try to help keep them from getting any heat damage to them. I hope this works. I'm gonna be replacing this strut anyway, so I'm not worried about the heat to it. Luckily they give you a new jam nut with the inner tie rod, so don't worry about replacing it or keeping it. But now that's broke loose, move on to the outer tie rod end and start taking it off. All right, next with a 21mm socket, we'll remove the lower tie rod end. Once you get it off, let's put it back on with a couple threads. We're gonna start prying out the outer tie rod end with a sledgehammer. Now with the sledgehammer, you can tap on here. This is where we replace the whole thing. And we'll tap on the nut, keep it from doing any damage to the lower control arm there. Bust it loose. Take off your nut. Now you're able to work out the outer tie rod. Next, we're gonna try to take the outer tie rod off. It's a little easier while it's still on the vehicle. We're gonna count the turns as we take it off. So we put the new one on. We know how many turns to put it back on. So it'll be a little more in line before we take it to get it aligned at the tire shop. It's really hard to see back in here, but there's a little wire clip, or tie, what do you want to call it, holding on the LU housing here. You just hit the brake, the wire tie on it. And now this should be able to get pulled off, exposing the inner tie rod. There we go. Here's your inner tie rod. Now I have to break it loose and then we pull it out. If you don't have a tie rod removal tool, you take a large set of locking pliers, break free the inner tie rod. And again, since we're replacing this, I don't mind about it getting chewed up by the pliers or the wrench. Once you get to a point, you can actually start to hand release it. And that's it. Well, unfortunately, we ran out of propane to be able to heat up this with a torch. So since we're not reusing any of the inner or outer tie rod parts, all we need is the boot. We're gonna use a cutting wheel, cut the inner tie rod in half, and get the boot off. Thoroughly inspect it for any holes, punctures, anything like that. Everything looks good here. So now we're good to start reassembling. All right, before installing your new inner tie rod, I'm gonna take a little bit of the medium thread locker. Then begin to screw it on. Once you get it as tight as you can, hand tight. Let me get your wrench again. Give it a couple quick jerks with the wrench, get it tight, and it should be good. All right, there was packing grease packed with the new inner and outer tie rods. Just fill the packing grease in around the joint. 5 extra. Stability, longevity, working around in it. Then remove the jam nut in order to put the outer tie rod on. Correction. Next we'll go on the bellow boot. And since your wire tie probably broke, just get you a couple of zip ties or one large zip tie to fix around the back side of the bellow boot to hold it in place. Again, tighten your zip tie. Keep the bellow boot in place. Now, there's a little groove in there that this slides onto right here. Oh. Actually slide that back, anti-seize. I recommend applying a little bit of anti-seize lubricant to the area right around here to keep the bellow boot from sticking too much to the outer tie rod, inner tie rod. So when they do the alignment, it doesn't risk breaking or damaging your bellow boot. Slide it on, work it around a little bit, make sure it is good and coated. And you will reapply your outer clamp. All right, once you got it on there, you're ready to start threading on your outer tie rod. All right, now you're gonna put on your new jam nut. And now you can start putting on, we'll put on a little bit of anti-seize before we put on the outer tie rod. Help keep from having the same problem we have with the old one, in case we ever gotta replace it again. Yes, I probably should be wearing gloves, but all right, now you can either measure, count the twists when you twist it off. We're just counting the threads from the old one to the new one. We line them up, make sure they are kind of similar. What was the thread count? All right, now you gotta remove your nut. Bottom of your outer tie rod. Work it in place. Again, you can jack it in the lower control arm to get it in place. Again, yep, 21mm socket. Go on the impact driver. All right, that completes the install of the inner and outer tie rod there. Last thing we do, put your tire back on and go to the line. All right, once you get your castle put on there, we'll get your torque wrench and torque it down to 84 foot-pounds. That's it. You have to get torqued down, make sure it is fix your cotter pin. And then spread your cotter pin up around the side so it won't back out. And you're complete with your install. You can put your tires back on and lower your vehicle. Now it's time to put your tires back on. Make sure you tighten down in a star pattern. All right, before you can torque down your wheels, you need to raise your vehicle back up, remove your jack stands, put the wheels on the ground, so you're able to torque them down to specs. And last step, you want to torque your lug nuts down to 150 foot-pounds. And that's it. You're complete with this install.
That's going to wrap it up for our review and install the front tie rod set fitting 2009 to 2017 F-150s. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, for all things F-150, be sure to keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.